Concrete Incorporated of Broomall in the amount of $87,560, submitting the lowest responsible bid.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Jeff, can you just elaborate a little on that for me,
Yeah,
please?
this is all HUD money being used. They're straightening up the sidewalks and the streetlights and a few other things up on Lancaster Avenue in the, I guess it would be the 600 block of Lancaster Avenue. Kind of like what we've done in some of the other areas of the township.
Forgive me, the 600 block, give me a
That would be,
landmark if you don't mind.
Penn Street to Old
That's what I
Lancaster.
thought. That's what I thought. I was just double checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much, there's not too much that we have on Lancaster Avenue, right?
So we're,
We have 2 blocks. We have
We just have
we have from the Lexus dealership,
up to the food source, right?
not the side where they're building the Mastrasiva building for parking cars, but right from the Lexus dealer at Old Buck to Old Lancaster
Right.
Avenue. Actually, a little bit past Old Lancaster, the line actually runs down the backyards of the houses on Old Lancaster.
So you're going to do in front of the bakery house? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
the bakery house and the pretzel boys and those places,
Yes.
Jeff?
Right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
So if you recall, these, as Jeff
I
said, these
do.
are funds that we can only use in certain areas. And a few years ago, we started to properly utilize those funds to improve some of the business districts in the area.
That's
And the
perfect.
next one, and this actually came grossly, well, I wouldn't say grossly, but less than what we expected to be. So there's a good possibility we'll move this year to bid out. The next one would be County Line Road. The businesses from like Lorraine. We
Right.
may have to do that in stages as well, but we're going to try
Okay.
to get that project done as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gentili.
All right. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Hey, stepped out for a second.
Okay. Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes. The 2014 road program.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to award the 2014 Street Improvement/Road Program contract to Joseph E. Suker and Son, Folcroft, PA, in the amount of $627,030, submitting the lowest responsible bid.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the purchase of EMS vehicles from Lanark and Manoa. The first one will be Lanark Fire Company. Motion to authorize the purchase of Lanark Ambulance 34-7 in the amount of $45,000 and the oxygen cascade system in the amount of $3,900.
Second.
Hey, second.
Motion made and seconded.
Question?
Question. This is affiliated with the EMS system.
It would, I think probably to be safe, you'd probably recuse yourself from that as well.
Yeah, should I also, I'm on the board of Lanark.
If you're, yeah, I think so, yes.
Okay. Well, I will be recusing myself from this vote because I am on the board at Lanark Fire Company. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of one 2012 Chevrolet 2500 ambulance and one 2011 GMC 4500 ambulance, in the amount of $175,000. This is Manoa Fire Company.
Second.
As a member of the fire company, I'll abstain on this one.
Okay.
Doesn't pay to be involved, huh?
I apologize.
Just to be sure.
I seconded that.
Okay.
This board understands the reasons for those.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
Okay. I guess that was
Mr. Leva? I can vote on
Oh,
Manoa.
you can.
He's not with Manoa.
on their board.
Well, Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Oliva, yes. Okay. The continuation of citizens forum, anyone would like to speak? Dr. Levin? I can talk to you afterwards. Sure.
I want to talk to you briefly about the library administration building and police station. This area is suitable only for the police station. And I believe that the site itself is a LULU, a locally unwanted land use. Useful to society, but objectionable to residents, neighbors, drivers and traffic, as well as passers-by through the area. The site, in addition, is not intrinsically suitable for its intended use, as some combination of a Haverford Township administration building, police station, and library on one site. It is a LULU because the site location is not large enough. Vehicular traffic would be continuously and adversely impacted beyond reasonable use and repair. Funds for such a project are available only through borrowing on the faith and credit of the residents. Effectively, borrowing is an additional taxation. Multiple borrowings could lead to cost overruns. Other public projects that merit attention would be placed on hold because of lack of funds. The site would first be prepared by grading, compacting soils, adding utilities, underground utilities, site drainage, and parking areas. At least 1/3 of the development cost is here, underground, and can't be seen in the final products. Construction supplies, vehicles, including construction workers' parked vehicles, as well as construction equipment, would be stockpiled on the site, as well as on nearby recreational fields, skateboard park, and recycling center. Traffic into and out of the site would be under constant control of the site. Planned underground parking is a feature for structural problems that defy corrections and would jeopardize building foundations and utilities. Traffic planning during and after development would be tenuous and unreliable, to say the very least. Gridlock of at least 2 major roads into and out of Havertown is a probable outcome. The end result of this, if it's carried out to its logical conclusion, which would be piling everything on the site, is an unrelated mix of recreational, administrative, police buildings, and vehicular lots, out of scale and proportion to the surrounding community, as well as difficult to get into and leave. No one will say just how much has already been invested in consultants, lawyers, engineering fees, township staff personnel, other professional time, and related expenses, not to mention disruptions of township business and affairs. I would say this really has to cease in some manner, because it's going nowhere at this point. We can't judge the programs that the library holds. We do know this, that the library's programs are changing, that there has to be an emphasis upon reading, and there has to be an emphasis on writing. Students are not taught to write more than a year or two in school. So I very strongly suggest that the project, as originally conceived as a 3-parted project on the small site, is a LULU. It is locally unwanted land use and will become worse.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Levin. Anyone else like to speak? Oh, I didn't see you. You're, no, go ahead.
I just, as far as taking vacations for the vote, up to and including the work session, Mr. Heilman might not have been here. So there was a decision being made whether or not an August vote was being taken. But they
was
did
here.
decide on July 7th.
Yeah,
that they would-
don't go saying I wasn't here at the meeting, I was here.
No, not that you aren't going to be here for the
she said
meeting
you
in
weren't gonna be
August,
for the August meeting.
whether or not. No, I'm not saying you weren't
Okay.
here. I do have a question on, actually, we're going to have a failing grade at Manoa and Darby Road if we put anything else other than the police station there. But on the bottom of the expenses, it says, and if you don't mind 1 second, it says amount above individual costs do not include the following allowances. And it's 10% for contingency, 10% for fixtures and furniture, and 15% for inspections and everything. Is that not in the 30 million, 18 million? Or is that going to be added on to the figure?
Is Lori there?
Anybody?
Lori, can
It's
you-
added on.
No, the contingencies were rolled into the costs
Right.
on those. Now, I think there was one option that didn't include it, that was in the breakdown that Amy had provided, the finance breakdown that Amy had.
So they're actually at the 35%, it is added into the individual cost. It will not add 35% on
Yeah,
30
there was-
million or 18 million.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
I just wanted to make sure of that. I would like to also ask, how can the stadium parking spots go from 172 to 60? Just if you're having a hockey game between two high schoolers, there's more than 60 cars going to be parked in that parking lot. I don't understand how 2/3 of parking spaces can automatically evaporate because we want to make bigger buildings. Unless they're all coming in clown cars, you
Okay.
need some parking spots. That's just another
Can you
question.
speak to that, Dave? What?
Parking?
Yeah, how did it go down from 172 to 60?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
The parking spaces at the stadium, it says there were 172, but now there's 60? on
No,
there?
there's 60 that are needed for the stadium itself. There's 159 or 157, I'm getting fuzzy now, existing parking spaces. They're shared by the police department, the stadium, and the ball fields. The stadium itself, based on the
only need 60.
ITE manual and the actual interview by Larry Yates, required 60 spaces just for the skating use.
Okay. And the Boyle Oil Road, as you now call it, Columbia Road, during the presentation was stated a few times that that is not a township road. That changed during the July meeting, and it says now that it is an unpaved township road. So is it the township
Unimproved.
road?
It's an
It's
unimproved.
unimproved, but it is the township. The township does own it. It was
Yes.
at the work session, we did not say. My one question, when you're going to egress or exit, I'm not sure, onto Columbia Road, if there's an emergency and the police actually have to exit that parking facility whatsoever during the rush hour time, and we have the left-hand turns and the failure grade for it, how are they going to be able to make a left-hand turn for emergency and go up Manoa Road? Or how are they going to be are they going to have to jolt through the parking lot now and be able to exit on Darby Road? How are police going to get to our emergencies? You're going to have to hang a right, and you've already had 2 children medevaced out right at Nailers Run Road, where you're going to have cars coming out from this property now and hanging a right and going up Manoa Road. Isn't that going to be a safety concern for traffic coming down Manoa Road and for any pedestrians crossing? I was on Manoa Road trying to make a left onto Shelburne when the Santander Bank was robbed, and there were emergency vehicles coming up Manoa Road at a high rate of speed. Nobody, I mean, very safe, oriented, but just looking at those cars traveling up, how are they going to exit onto Manoa Road from those buildings in a safe manner if you decide to add it? There's just a lot of questions, and I still am going back. I can't understand how 8 months of time is put on the property committee, and you actually now have 7 options to choose from. Your residents are not here that were here for 8 months. I still think taking a vote in September is unfair to the residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
There's one over here.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
Don't worry
The
about
laptop is right in my way. I can't see him. He puts his hand up. I can't see him. I'm sorry, Dave.
I got you. I have a handout here, by the way, for everybody, if you'd like one. I may not have enough, but if it gets around to Commissioner Hall, she knows what this is. He's probably sick of hearing from me about this anyway. But my name is Dave Schwartz, 321 Davis Road. I'm on the Haverford EAC, and I'm here to give a bit of good news. Most of you are probably already aware of this, but I came to you and presented a few months ago about an initiative that we're starting at the EAC for 100 rain gardens in 10 years. I'm happy to report that as a result of some recent grants, we now have some actual green behind this green initiative. We actually have some money. So I just want to give you a quick update of what's going on, what we're going to be asking of you in the future, and kind of just brief you on the whole situation and everybody else who remained here until 10:30. So anyway, the first thing that we're doing is putting together a volunteer list of individuals who would like to either learn how to build rain gardens, actually help to build a rain garden, or who'd like to host a rain garden on their property. And I'll talk about that a bit more as we move along here. We currently are going to be putting up this week a sign-up sheet on the website that's going to be administered by Nora Schmidt of the Parks and Rec Department. And her contact information is right there, phone number and email. So if anybody's interested in obviously learning a bit more about this, we'll be sending out emails and correspondence to those who sign up. The two grants that were awarded, one of them was awarded to the Parks and Rec Department with Tim over there and his great staff, a WREN grant. WREN stands for Water Resource and Education Network. It's a project by the League of Women Voters. It's a grant for $4,100. It's going to help to fund a rain garden at the CREC. It's also going to be used to run some training for local residents who are interested in building rain gardens, and also creating some plaques to how rain gardens work and the ones that are out there, and providing sponsorship for rain gardens to businesses. The other grant is a bigger one. It was awarded to a team led by the Pennsylvania Resource Council and the Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative for $51,000. Now we're part of that. And we are actually we were designated as a lead in that. We're actually becoming the leader in this initiative. We're going to create a framework for other communities to help build rain gardens. So we're going to position ourselves as a regional leader in this green infrastructure, which I think is a very good thing overall. In addition, this grant will fund the building of a rain garden on public land, and we're looking for input as to where that could be. We heard a lot this evening about flooding, and obviously with the rain that we had, it's apropos, and I'm sure we'll be hearing some more this week about where flooding is. So we're looking for some input, and if I can come back on August 4th and discuss more detail, we'll be looking for some input from you as where some locations would be. This grant also includes 10 rain gardens on residential properties, so people can potentially apply for free rain gardens. We're going out and doing screenings and figuring out how the whole thing works there. So I just wanted to give you an update. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I'll happy to come back in the next meeting.
And you'll be at the work session, am I correct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Congratulations on getting that. It's really good work.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, Mario,
Okay, so, hold on. We still have more people who want to speak.
okay.
Anyone else on this side?
Before you go into that new
Over here? Good.
before you go into the, let me see if I can get this done first.
Okay.
New business?
Good evening. My name's Rich Corrado. I live at 1304 Rose Tree Lane. I've been in Haverford Town for 40 years. I know I don't look it. I'm here as chairman of the Parks and Recreation Board. And I feel it's my duty to convey for my members feelings of what happened tonight. First of all, I'd like to personally thank Commissioner Hall for the respect she provided the Parks Board by delaying the commissioner's vote until at least the recommendation was made by the Parks Board. I truly appreciate that. I'd just like to say that there is current guidelines. I know somebody brought up the fact that there aren't guidelines. There are current guidelines. And the Parks Board, and they're more than just being dead 5 years. And the Parks Board used those guidelines in making their decision. This has nothing to do with any individual involved, but the decision made by the Park Board was based on the current guidelines and the fact that the person involved already has a tree and a plaque dedicated to him at that field. So I duly respect the decision, but I also respect and would ask that Commissioner Oliva and the Park provide a comment back to the Parks Board as to rationale used by the Board of Commissioners to go against the recommendation made by the Parks Board. We do know we are an advisory board, so we don't have to tell us that again. But it was a lot of effort, a lot of research and everything done into this decision. I know it's a minor decision for you guys, because you got a lot more to do. It's a small fish. But for the Parks Board, it was important. And we are preparing guidelines or updates to the current guidelines to make this process better in the future. But I would appreciate some sort of an explanation I can take back to the Park Board, who their recommendation was not accepted. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Oliva, may I speak for one moment?
Sure.
I just want to thank you for, I understand how much work the Parks Board put into this, and I do want to thank all committee members that work for us as advisory committee, because we need you. And we do appreciate your time and your commitment to this community, and I certainly didn't mean to take away from the work that you do. I know that the Parks Committee did take the extra 30 days. I was disappointed that there was not more of a cohesive response to me, but that's okay. You know, things happen, and hopefully all of us learn from it. I know I learned from it, but I do appreciate all your time, and I would like to convey that to the Parks Board.
Okay. Anyone else? New business.
Okay, Chris is going to speak first on this one issue.
In reference to when we met in the back room for executive session, I am requesting that our solicitor attend the zoning hearing board meeting this Thursday in reference to the new circular wireless, or the new singular wireless. They were doing business as AT&T Mobile with the Temple Lutheran Church at 501 Brookline Boulevard. I'm asking them, our solicitor, to attend the meeting in the interest of the Board of Commissioners, bring information back to the board prior to a vote being taken.
Okay.
We discussed this in the work session, and that's what I'm asking for this to be done now.
First, we have to add the motion. We need to make a motion to add it to the agenda. So you want to make the motion to, go ahead and make the motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay. Make a motion that our township solicitor attend the zoning hearing board meeting.
No.
Add it to the,
Business, you can make a motion.
Yeah,
All right. I'm requesting that this
yeah,
be
this is
put
for
on-
this Thursday night.
Right. But you need to add it to the agenda first.
He's bringing it up under new business. The agenda's already published a week ago, right?
You're okay with
This
that?
is under new
Yeah.
business.
Okay. All right, good.
So I'm requesting that, as discussed in our executive session, that the township solicitor please attend the zoning hearing board meeting this Thursday, the 17th, July 17th, in regards to new singular wireless, doing business as AT&T Mobility and the Temple Lutheran Church, 501 Brookline Boulevard.
Second.
Mr. President, I think your concern there about adding it to the agenda is acting on new business as opposed to proposing something and then discussing it and talking about it again in a future meeting. But I do think the situation here is, there's some exigency to the situation here, as they're meeting on Thursday, and only recently did this come to our attention. And so this is one of those situations where we should act in new business and and explain the reason why we're doing so. And the reason here is truly there's no opportunity for us to engage in any lengthier discussion than now.
Okay. All right.
And is the motion for us to authorize our solicitor to appear on our behalf at that hearing
Exactly.
and report back to us
Right.
in executive session his thoughts and comments on that?
And ask questions if need be.
Appropriately, act appropriately in our interest.
Yeah, as I understand, I'm going to enter my appearance on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and ask what questions I think are appropriate to get sufficient information to advise the board as to what is taking place.
Prior to any vote being taken.
Right.
Okay. Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Heilman?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to bring up the problems that people are having over on Mill Road at Ridgeway and Woodmere Way. And basically, if we could start off with Dave Pinoni. And Dave, could you explain the situation there that you've been involved with there?
Sure, Larry just did a report back a couple months ago, nice detail, I believe he distributed it to the board. But it's a little bit similar to the same situation we have in Juniper. We have a substantive watershed that starts well above the high school and drains down through the Woodmere Ridgeway neighborhood. And when the infrastructure that was installed in that neighborhood, I believe if I remember correctly, in the 50s and 60s, when that infrastructure, when the flows that come from a storm exceed the capacity of that infrastructure, what we don't have in that neighborhood is what we call overland relief. So unfortunately, when those storm sewers are at capacity, the water backs up and then it hits the properties. So what we've looked at is a couple different options. One is to just make the storm sewer bigger. But two is to provide overland relief, which would require removing some structures. And three is to intercept some of the flows and actually put a parallel storm sewer in instead of through the properties adjacent along Mill Road. And all those options would remove, would reduce the amount of flow getting to the properties and or reduce the potential for the damage. I forget the numbers, Larry. I believe they're around $1.5 million to $2.5 million.
Yeah,
in
there
order
was
of
a
magnitude for the
couple
cost.
options. It went anywhere from $3 million to about $1.5 million.
Nothing, look, none of us were around in the 50s. Nothing was built wrong. Today, you couldn't build some of these houses. You can't enclose streams like they were enclosed. You can't build some of those houses in those areas. Again, same issue we had down around Juniper. But back in the 50s and 60s, the ordinances weren't the same. And that some of these houses are built in places that just make them susceptible.
Well, what would, in your own opinion, what you think would be the best solution to solve most of the problems with the water?
I think it's a combination of maybe removing some structures that are in harm's way and paralleling some sewers on Mill Road. I think to be honest with you, I think we're sort of getting to that point in a few of our areas in the township. We may have to look at some of the tough decisions of removing structures and putting larger storm sewers in. The only way we're going to control the damage from these large, and by the way, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
This isn't the 25-year storm. This isn't the modest storm. This is the intense rain event that we unfortunately see this time of year. It's the thunderstorm. It's the 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in a couple hours.
Short
It hits us on Winfield Drive. It hits us on.
Tunbridge.
Yep, Tunbridge. Yep. Yeah,
Pine Valley.
We've got some
Run.
susceptible areas.
Yeah. Just one question. When you say removing structures, you're talking about knocking down houses.
And again, that's an issue for the board. It's not an engineering issue, but that's something that we should at least discuss.
Okay.
Well, we're going to blame you.
Yeah, no.
You're not talking about along Mill Road there?
When you're
David?
talking about
No.
when
Okay.
you're talking about removing structures, you're getting into
Juniper, down that way.
Well,
You're getting into some sensitive
Foster.
issues.
we're getting into sensitive issues where you may have residents who don't want their houses to be.
Absolutely. Sure. You do with your, hey, look, we've had areas where we've made recommendations and actually try to get some funding to modify houses. And residents didn't like that because you're getting very personal going into someone's house and modifying. But we had areas where we wanted to flood-proof houses.
Yeah, we needed to fill in basements and stuff, and people just don't
Close
do
up
it.
basements,
Yeah.
not fill-in basements. And so it's very, very personal. So it's something you gotta go in with your eyes wide open and at least maybe consider.
Okay. So you're
It's also
Say
a
it a little bit
situation,
differently, I'm sorry.
it's also a
It's my
situation that comes
responsibility to
from,
let the board know that that's an option.
I mean, we now, in 2014, we deal with stormwater issues. Anytime anybody's breaking ground or taking up grass and stuff, we have in place rules that require people to actually make the water situation better than what it was like before they broke the ground. But, there was the infrastructure is not sufficient to handle an area now that probably now in 2014 couldn't be developed. But it could be developed 50 years ago. It could be developed
exactly-
30 years ago.
exactly
That's
right.
exactly what
Yeah,
we're dealing
exactly
with.
what I'm
Now,
saying. Yep.
we have to understand as a township that we take these things on we are setting, in some ways, we are putting ourselves into a responsible, kind of making ourselves a responsible party for some of these situations. And these are going to come up, or we're going to have to do it, not just the one that came up this week or the one that came up a year ago, but we're going to have to find and recognize those areas in the township that are just because of the passage of time, and unfortunately the way the weather has changed, are going to be areas where we take on a significant investment to do this. We just have to understand the ramifications of what we're doing. But it is an instance, though, where government is better equipped to do that than other people are, than private industry is. We can negotiate better. We can do larger projects and get better prices, do these things better. And because we also are a law-making body as well as a law-enforcing body, we can change the circumstances as we need to enable us to do these things. So we have to recognize our role as government, as government, that it's the right time to, we may be the right party to do it, even if it does benefit, for the most part, private citizens whose homes are affected by the weather.
This has also gotten to a point over the years that the township and all, this is the paperwork, for putting in for grants, and this is the paperwork over the years down in the 8th Ward section where homes have flooded out continuously. The request for FEMA and PEMA has been turned down. We've had
Well, right, because the conditions they have is, here's $100,000, go buy a house somewhere else.
So
Yeah.
know that,
Yeah.
I mean, there has been a work in progress, and here is the proof of the history and everything that we have been asking and asking over and over again for assistance. It now comes down to, at this level,
Right.
that we are flipping the bill to mitigate stormwater runoff.
And this is,
And it's-
that's the aggravating part. The aggravating part is that we have to deal with the issues that, the smaller issues, but nobody else. These people are flooding. They're, the state is saying, no, I'm sorry. Federal government saying no, but then now we, who have the least amount of money and the least resources to do this, have to be the one to deal with the issue. That's what's aggravating about the whole
But
thing.
we have the most at stake.
I understand.
that's-
I
yeah,
know.
and
I
the
know what you're
state-
saying.
The state and the federal government, that money is available, but the conditions on that money are too extreme for our appetites and for the appetites of the people who live in these homes, which is, here's a bunch of money, go buy a home somewhere else. And we're not interested in basically forced relocation of folks here, but we just have to understand the
Well,
ramifications
you
are
are
that
doing
we're
that too. When
acting
you're-
collectively.
When you're
for
saying you're removing
folks.
structures, you're telling people, we're going to have to take your home, and we're going to, not
Or
taking
we're
the
gonna run
home,
parallel
we're gonna-
lines.
We reimburse
We're
people
gonna-
for.
Yeah, but I mean, or we undertake significant infrastructure repair, but we know that has 50 and 100-year life after it, and that, they're, when you think about it over the, you do we buy equipment for the fire companies or equipment for our public works department. This stuff can work from 5 to 15 years. You lay in a new storm system, that works for 75 years. Those pipes don't need to be relined for at least 50. When you think of it as a 50-year investment, it's pretty inexpensive. Somebody else is going to live in that home 25 years from now, and somebody else is going to live in it 30 years from then. And, spread out over all that time, it should be a lot more palatable to us, and it should be a lot more palatable to the citizens of our township to understand that, yes, we're taking it on collectively as a community, but, we're the people to make those decisions because we're the people affected by the people who don't want to leave their neighborhoods and who want to live here and have been contributing members to
And
this
if those,
community.
and if those people's houses were the ones affected, they'd be here in front of us talking too. So that's the bottom line. So, it's just something we got to do.
Well, Mario, can we,
I don't,
okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was saying, can we get something on the agenda to get some relief to these people and people down in Chris's ward? It's really serious problems, and they continually get flooded out, so we can't just keep saying, well,
I think we need to know in the next
Wait a minute.
month, 2 or 3 concrete options
Right.
and direct these guys how to do it. I mean,
We have those
We
options.
we have the options. Dave has all the options.
Okay.
I don't think condemning properties is the way to do it.
I agree with you.
Condemning
I agree.
properties. This isn't, this
No.
one, well, it is the
Well,
suggestion of 2 homes.
could we-
One
could
home
we-
that was purchased by the township.
Could we
I
have,
mean, if people will do this voluntarily, great, but as far as eminent domain goes, I think we should
Absolutely
do that
not.
really
Well-
Don't want to
reliably.
leave, but
Not
this is for
for
wireless
any-
receptor.
could we have a separate meeting on
Can I
this
make one
alone?
comment?
Yeah.
Some of
Like a
these
special
particular
meeting?
areas, to invest $5 million in one particular area, it could be as high as $5 million, to remedy 2 houses that are flooding, it's not, not smart. And that is the right thing to do.
Right, but I mean, clearly with that kind of price tag and what needs to be done there, that's an area where we can negotiate with these folks. I just want us to be really careful about, eminent domain.
Yes,
It's a
I would
last,
agree with that.
last resort.
Yeah. What's that?
Right, but this isn't taking people's homes away from them.
I don't, yeah, that's
Well,
exactly, if
we got-
people know
yeah.
that they're in their floodplain and they want to, they're like, okay, we're okay with moving, we'll move out, just buy my house for me, I'm okay with that, I'm okay with that. But taking houses is, using eminent domain is not a good.
Yeah, Mario, I just want to say we're on 2 different issues. One is the people on Mill Road, and that's my issue. And the other is Chris's issue with the flooding of the homes down there. And he's not saying about, what are you saying, Chris, about the buying of the houses or whatever?
There may be different remedies
Yeah.
for each issue, and that's what we want to, that's what we were trying to vet here, and Dave has given us some options in what we need to do, but we need to be really careful because each area is different. In Chris's area, it may be cheaper to buy the homes, and the people would be willing to sell those houses and fix the problem, whereas in your neighborhood, it may be better just to
Just
install.
a pipe down, well,
Right,
big
so that's
pipe,
what we
but
need to
down Mill
know,
Road.
figure out what the.
We need to know those particulars so we can make this evaluation intelligently.
Okay, so,
We've got 4 or 5 different issues in 4 or 5 different places with 4 or 5 different reports. It's really not fair to you guys to try to vet all that right now.
Can't.
Right,
Um,
right.
and-
This is just the first time we're ever all talking about
to
this.
the podium so people can hear you.
There's multiple issues in multiple parts of the township. Larry knows every time we get a heavy storm, we've got a half a dozen spots we go to. We've got evaluations on most, if not all of them, but they're one's 4 years ago, one's 3 years ago, one's a year ago. It's really not fair for this board to try to vet all that out tonight. It's a lot, so.
That's what I said. Can we have a special meeting just on this
That's
issue?
up to you guys, but I guess, what I can do is put it together for you in one place. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so you can see
That's
it a
what we
little
want.
bit
We want you to,
more
want you to put
holistically.
something together for us, one place, then we'll put
Working with
together.
Larry and working with Doc and get everything pulled together so we're in
Right.
one place.
About how long would you need for that? Like,
It's gotta be at least to Labor Day. I mean,
so why don't we do a special meeting some point in September and,
They're not de minimis projects, they're not de minimis issues. We're past the
Right.
point of extending a storm sewer 100 feet to take care of something like this.
We'll do a special meeting in late September.
I'd like to sit down with Larry, if you don't mind, and just make sure we know which ones we're talking about and why I have so far.
And Mr. Pannoni, it's worth saying that FEMA came out with all new floodplain lines in January of 2014. And there's been a major pushback, as I know you know, in the federal government. Nobody wanted to institute any of this because of the insurance rates. So there's a lot of issues that, with these floodplains, they're going to continue to change. The environment has changed. And, we have to think long-term about this. We can't just do something that's going to, this is a huge undertaking if this township decides to do something. So we need to know the options, and we need to know the particulars about every situation.
The basic example I can give you is something like this, and Jimmy will remember, it was a big storm sewer was put in to help Oakmont Firehouse in that neighborhood. Remember?
Yeah.
That originated from the trolleys coming out of Darby Road. A lot of runoff went down into the Oakmont area. The Oakmont Fire Company used to flood out a lot.
let out all the time, yeah. When they pulled the tracks up, there was the water, they paved everything and all went down more.
That's probably as big and as tight a culvert that was put in retroactively to address flooding issues. But even after that, when Oakmont rebuilt their firehouse, they raised the firehouse 2.5 feet to help protect themselves further.
Right.
So when I'm saying there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of moving parts.
But we do have a few identifiable topographically challenging areas that, environment changing or not, are particular, are the basins of these watershed areas. I mean,
Yes.
Winfield, Eagle,
is, yeah.
That's a bad
A lot of
spot.
them had
We made
problems in the 40s
infrastructure
and
repairs there that made a big difference.
So I can pull.
Do we want to pick a date for the meeting in September?
Why don't we get
I really would
info?
like to sit down with Larry, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Okay.
and Don,
Let us
make
know.
sure.
So at the next meeting, we will determine the date of the meeting. Dave wants to sit down with Larry and
That all right,
work
Larry?
out all the issues and have them come in front of us sometime in hopefully late September, if not.
Fall, but just,
Yeah.
again, I just want to make sure we're not,
Okay.
there's more than a few of them, I don't want any, if we're going to look
Well,
at them, we might as well look at them all at once.
In the meanwhile, are there temporary things we do during the floods, during the bad storms that help these areas? I mean, do we even get the
Yes,
fire
there-
companies out
there
to help
has been,
pump out
yes.
stuff?
Those type of flooding isn't that type, there's just nowhere to place the water.
Just nowhere to go with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a short period of time.
Yeah,
a
no,
lot of
yeah,
rain,
yeah.
And the houses,
No, I understand. This town, we have an amazing capacity to handle long, steady 12 inches of rain over 24 hours. But 4 inches of rain in an hour here clobbers this township.
Yep.
And clobbers everybody. Yeah,
There's-
and that's
there's not a
just
storm
overwhelms how we do things.
In the area. that can
Normally, I
handle that
wouldn't,
amount of
I
water.
wouldn't allow somebody to speak from the audience, but if you'd like to come up and just ask your question real quick.
A few issues that we had brought up in a meeting that we had with Mr. Gentili, Mr. McGarity, and Mr. Pannoni back in October 15th of 2013. We all gathered here with quite a few of the neighbors that suffer from this issue in our area. And we were under the understanding that the way that the township is designed is there's a pipe that comes down Mill Road, and there's a pipe that runs through the houses from the high school all the way down to Earlington. So there are two pipes, but apparently the pipe on Mill Road turns in onto Woodmere. So you have two pipes coming down and a pipe coming down and turning into Woodmere Way off of Mill. So you have a compressed amount of water, which is apparently completely incorrect. So it backs up and it overflows and it becomes a lake. And, force majeure, I'm not an attorney, but force majeure is something where you can say that it's an act of God once, but then you have to rectify the issue. This is something that's happened in the years that we have lived there since 1998, 6 times. Mr. Hanel has lived across this... 62 years, and he said in 1962 this was an issue then.
Disaster.
And
Okay.
so I know that I don't want to take so much of your time. We've all sat here for hours. We all need to go home and sleep. But we've been pushing and fighting for this issue for a long time, and we just really, really need to resolve it. I know that people in your ward have an issue and a problem. I'm sorry to say, we have a huge turnout. There's quite a few of us, and a few of them that are not here tonight because they're away on vacation. We have fought, we've had meetings, we've met with Mr. Gentili, we've had numerous phone calls with him,
So you're-
Mr. McGarity.
You're asking us to resolve it tonight when we don't have it in front of us.
Tonight,
I
I'm
mean,
asking you to
it's,
really help us.
that's what we're trying to do.
No, she's asking you to be understanding towards her problem.
Yeah,
That's
I-
what she's asking you.
Well, that's what we are. I think we are. I think asking to have the special meeting in September, we are. I mean, I can't make a decision on something I don't have the information on. And I think it's fair to Dave to bring it and put it in front of all of us.
Apparently, there was something that was written up on April 7th of this year that he did hand to Mr. Gentili, which I gave you a copy
Right.
of at the last meeting, and I
But-
was under the impression that all the commissioners have a copy of this as to the 3 or 4 resolutions that Mr. Pannoni had come up with to
But
help
it's
resolve
different
the
than looking
issue.
at drawings and having a whole presentation on it. I mean, even reading what you gave me, I'm not prepared to vote on something tonight.
I understand that, but we're asking to really move forward and finally get this taken care of.
Okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think we are. You know, I thought we were. That was the only impression we were.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, and anything else under new business?
Mario, how do we stand with redistricting?
Okay, we can talk about that later?
Okay.
Parking.
Yeah, we have to, so the three of us have to get together. We just got the numbers, and quite frankly, all of us are within the required limits. We have to get together and talk about, you know, do we have to do anything? Are there tweakings? You know, quite frankly, you know, my opinion, I'm 14 people off. I don't think my ward has to be touched. Jimmy's 7 people off. I don't know that Jimmy has to be touched. I mean, I don't know. So we have to get together and talk about it. The three of us have to sit down and talk about it.
I'm hoping that you're going to come to the rest of us and give us.
We will. We definitely will.
We can say if we
definitely
need to
will.
be tweaked or not.
Yeah, no,
Not your
we
decision.
are going to, but I'm just saying, I mean, to me, it's like, you know, if we're all within the 5%, there might be tweakings of a block or something, but I don't know if there has to be major, especially in light of the 1st and 9th wards being redistricted by the state. We could have a situation where we're having 2 different booths at polling places because it might be, you know, D'Amelio, well, it's Bocosi now, but whoever, just to give an example, and you might have Wexler and Vitale
Well, I mean,
at
I
same
wanna see
polling
the
place
report.
by redistricting anybody in the 1st and 9th ward. You know, because the state lines are drawn and they're as they are. It doesn't matter if we tweak our lines, the state lines are drawn.
Okay.
So it's something to me that it really has to be looked at and how it's going to affect
And
people.
give
Put
me
the
10
committee
seconds
together,
to comment
and
on
then,
that.
Yeah, committee should make a
Go ahead.
report.
20 seconds. It's
it started
it's
at 10.
It'll never happen.
25, give me 30. 35?
The only goal here isn't to make sure everybody's within 5 or 6 or 2. You know, we have a range. The thing, 20 years ago, this township, these wards started taking really strange shapes because a lot of bad factors went into messing around with these political lines. To the extent that we can restore neighborhoods and not screw everything up, and we're complicated by the issues in the 1st and 2nd, or what is it?
First and the
First and
ninth
ninth.
wards. You know, those are complicating factors. But it's more than making our numbers match.